Lovely to see everyone tonight. My name's Kathi, if you don't already know. And we're going to be looking at, through October, a whole lot of focus on disturbing states of mind and how we can replace those with rewarding, happier states. And all the methods that Buddhism offers to work with that and turn things around. So there's we're probably going to look at basically 5 main ones that are really the most. 3 of them are the main ones. And we'll probably look at a few, but like generally, but that branch off from these 5. But the 3 main ones, and there's different levels of these too. So the really super subtle level is, first of all, ignorance. It's called ignorance. It's basically the lack of awareness of the way things exist, like the way we ourselves exist, and also the relations between cause and effect. So our actions and the results, the consequences in our life. So the lack of awareness of how that works, and actually we get it completely screwed up. And that's what the problem is, pretty much sources back to that. And from that, we have this natural tendency to have a drawn towards things that we think will favour us, and have this aversion to things that threaten us and so on, which is natural. It's a natural byproduct or a direct result of this way that we perceive things incorrectly. So this is a big part of what Buddhism presents. So we'll pretty much only be touching the surface of it, but yeah, we'll get across a good understanding to work with. But I thought before we get too bogged down with details, we'll just have a little relaxing meditation. So feel comfortable, whatever position that works for you. Main thing is a straight back. My voice sounds really weird to me because my ear's blocked, so I hope it doesn't sound weird to you. Yeah. Okay, so let's focus ourselves, our attention within, and just let go of all the busyness of the day and the busyness of getting here tonight. We could visualise at the crown of our head a soothing nectar just descending down slowly through our whole body and unwinding any tight muscles, releasing any tension as it descends. Down through the throat, into the shoulders, and Just feel that relaxing, soothing liquid dissolving away all the stress. And down through our torso. And give attention to any tight spots, any constricted, sore points. Down past our hips, all the aches in the legs, feel it all unwind gently and soothingly. And down through our arms into our fingers. You could feel a tingling sensation as it activates the blood flow. We might have a big sigh of relief. So we start to unwind. Just become aware of your posture, that your back's straight, to allow the energy flow, the subtle energies. You can have your eyes slightly open, with the gaze looking down over your nose, but not taking in any external sight, just the inner awareness. And then bring your attention to the natural flow of your breathing, just as you normally breathe, when you don't normally notice. Just follow the inhale and the exhale of the breath. And give this your whole attention. Just for a couple of minutes, immerse your awareness completely in the breath. Allow your awareness and the breath to become totally merged into one. All right, we can finish the meditation there. So in Buddhism, I was looking at an article by Dr. Alexander Berzin, and he was describing how you could break Buddhism up into 3 aspects. And so there's what he called Buddhist science, and then Buddhist psychology, and Buddhist religion. So I think he was speaking to, at the time, he was giving a lecture to non-Buddhists, and he was differentiating the religious part of it. And I thought it might be helpful to look at it the way he's divided it up. So science covers, like the Buddhist science covers, the area of logic and the view of reality, which is what we're going to talk about, and impermanence, and basically about how mind affects matter, so our mind affects us physically. And then the psychology, Buddhist psychology is kind of obvious. That's about the states of mind, like that we're also going to talk about, the disturbing mind states that we generate. And it's also about the ways of knowing things. And then the religion, Buddhist religion is that he's classified the ritual side of it, and the prayers and the reincarnation that he's put into the religious side. So with the subject of ignorance, it's pretty like jumping into the deep end to present that tonight, because it's the most subtle, pretty much, except for karma, the most subtle subject to get our head around. But why I thought to explain that first is because it's the root cause of all the other negative emotions. So it makes sense to explain where they're all coming from. It's going to be a little bit complex and a bit technical, but it's really good to just get an understanding, and we'll also do a meditation on it that will help. And it'll show us how we generate these other mind states of like anger, desire, jealousy, arrogance, all these distressing emotions that come in our life all the time, spontaneously, and get in the way of our happiness. So we'll, it's quite subtle, but we'll just have a look at what that means. So this subject is one of the core revolutionary realizations that the Buddha had, and this one the understanding of reality, and which is often termed wisdom, the wisdom realising the true nature of existence, and also the other main core subject in Buddhism is great compassion, or the mind that has the determination to basically release all beings from suffering. So in endeavouring to achieve like an awakened state so that you fully know how to guide others. So they're both really quite exclusive to Buddhism. Although you do find other, particularly Eastern religions, that do have an understanding of voidness, or that's the wisdom realising emptiness. There's like, you might have heard of non-dualists or non-duality. That's quite similar in the Eastern traditions. And a lot of Westerners have got into that. A lot of heaps of people have taken on a lot of these approaches to life. So basically, what happens is everything appears to us as existing inherently from its own side, including ourselves. So when we think of ourselves, this image appears to us, and it seems like we have a substantial, independent, findable entity within us. And basically that's an illusion, but what the problem is with that is that is what causes us to feel this natural sense of us being the centre of the universe. You know, so it's like a natural outcome of this distorted view of the way things exist, is that everything appears to be us and them. So you might be beginning to see why then we have this aversion and attraction happening. So it's possibly better to do a little meditation on that to show you what that really means. But I'll just explain it in terms of like something external first. So like, say, a table. So it's like there's some quality of tableness that is something more than just this four legs and a top. And it's like there's some kind of entityness within each object, including ourselves. And it's like an extra thing, which means that basically we don't feel like we have to label it table, because it's like, oh, that's a table already, you know. So anyway, we're getting a bit technical. I think we'll do a little meditation on this subject, and then we can maybe talk about what you think. just want to give you a little idea of what this source of all these other afflictive mind states is coming from. And then we can get on with it. Okay, so we'll just do a little meditation so that you can think about this as you go along, a little analytical experience of the way we normally perceive things. So quoting Geshe Doga, the resident teacher here, I is the object of the mind thinking I. So this is talking about ourself, me, I. What happens in my mind's eye when I think of myself is the image of me as if I'm existing inherently within me somewhere. It's like there's a me in my head somewhere running the show, monitoring everything. Monitoring everything that's happening to me. And maintaining that constant chatter in the head. I normally don't even question it. It's just me. And it seems as though I've always been here like that, within me. There's never been a time that I wasn't manifesting like that. What appears back to me when I think of myself is a sense of me having been there all along, even when I wasn't thinking of myself. It's like, yeah, just naturally there all the time. But when I wasn't aware of myself, when I wasn't thinking of myself, was there any appearance of me, actually? The trick of the mind is that it makes it appear as if I'm self-existent in here, within myself, within my body. But if we actually look for ourselves throughout the body, in our mind, in our feelings, in our emotions, in any part of our awareness, where are we? Can we actually pinpoint me in there? Then I become very elusive. It's hard to find anything but blood, bones, organs, flesh, muscle in there, actually. If you analyse. That appearance of me like that, as if I exist inherently within me, findably inside there, is actually a complete illusion. But just check for yourself and see if you can find yourself within you. you might think that you're part of your mind. But within the different aspects of mind, there are feelings. Are you a feeling? Are you a feeling of pleasure or pain? Another aspect of mind is discrimination. Could you fit into that category of being an aspect of discrimination? Could you be consciousness? All right, we'll finish the meditation there. So, any ideas about how you perceive yourself? Did you have any thought about how what appears to us as ourself could be existing somehow within us? This is the sort of question that a lot of the previous, past masters would get their students to go home with, and like there's a story of one teacher telling his disciples to go and find their I, which is their sense of self, what we've been looking at. So yeah, it's something that we have to check out, and there's a meditation that is called the 4-point analysis, and it's just really hones in on that, which I've just touched a few aspects of that in this meditation, but it's quite analytical, that 4-point analysis. So it's something really good to do, to become really sure about that that whole notion of how we exist. It's a really fundamental point in Buddhism, but I don't know what what past experience you've had. You might have had a lot of previous reading or other meditations here. But basically Buddhism is saying there's no self to be found. So what we are is this, what we call body-mind complex, or we call them the 5 aggregates of body and mind, 4 of mind. And it's a subtle point that basically, although everything always appears as though it's solidly, independently existing from its own side, that this is an hallucination. And so we'll just leave that part there, and we'll just keep that in mind. And we'll go on to a little bit about how karma happens, because that's really related also to our what drives us. So karma is really, like, it's that term's thrown around a lot, and different definitions. But literally, it's about the mental urge that we have to do something, or say something, or think something. And so this is like the Buddhist science part, where we have this mental activity that's a chemical reaction in the brain, but what Buddhism says is saying mind is more the experiential, subjective, the subjective experience of the mental impulse. So karma is like another word for law of cause and effect, and we have these habits that like pave the like neural pathways, and so we get these familiar grooves happening, and what that's stemming from is this, basically this unawareness of how things exist, and like how things arise dependently on things. So what I wanted to go into tonight is a little bit more about how we can deal with what comes from that. And so, like the negative mind states that can plague us. So there's three levels of the ignorance and the aversion that happens, and the attachment. So on a very deep-rooted level, we have this happening unconsciously, and that's part of this like unawareness that's really deep-rooted. And then we have a level that we are sometimes conscious of in our actions. Just looking for where I've got that. And basically it's what I was talking about before, the kind of self-centeredness. And then we have the next level where what comes from that is like desire and grasping and discontentment. And then we have like anger and agitated states. And so, since in Buddhism we have a lot of ways of dealing with disturbing states of mind. I think one way that I like to look at it is, for instance, with karma, whatever happens to us, whatever's presenting itself in our experience is where we start. So this is our mind reflecting, it's a reflection of our mind, our own mind. Our own mental urges are creating this situation that, so say like we have a conflict in the family or something, and we might think it's like, what I'm getting at is that we externalise a lot of stuff, but actually it's all a reflection of our mind. So this is the way we can take away the blaming and the conflict that might arise by taking responsibility for whatever's going down. And I think this is a really core strategy to turn around what we normally would find unacceptable or annoying or whatever, and think, okay, so this is my own mind throwing stuff back at me. And the other thing about that is that whatever is happening in that moment, because it's a creation from our own mind, it's exactly what we need in that moment. So you know how when we have those truly annoying things happening and we just think, why now? And like, just those things that are the last straw and all that. So just thinking of at those times like, well, it's a karmic ripening that somehow is going to be exactly what I need to deal with right now. So anyway, it helps me in lots of ways. It can take the can take the real like worst part of that experience and just turn it around a little bit. So there's a really good something that I always rely on too is letting go and just like when we have something quite intolerable happening, to there's different ways of doing this, but when we're feeling overwhelmed, whatever that feeling is, just to like immerse your awareness into the feeling. And this doesn't have to be right in the moment of action when it's all happening, But when you have got time to reflect, or if you're on the phone, or you're sitting at your desk at work and you're feeling like overwhelmed, whenever it's like a really strong feeling especially, take that opportunity to go into that feeling, and just by accepting it, meaning like you're looking for that feeling within you, just by doing that, it can turn the whole thing around, because instead of walking away from it, instead of not being able to deal with it and thinking it's too much, and so it's like you're still going through it, but it's like you can't get your head around it, so it's just happening, but you're not able to take it on. And so this is really like the opposite of that, and you're fully embracing it, and that just miraculously can turn it around. So that's one really miraculous method that I fall back on. Normally, that's something you can also do with later. So, say with traumatic experiences, when you say reflect over the day and you think, oh, that was really not on what happened, it really upset me or whatever, or conversely, I feel really bad about having done that, and so the regret that you have, and so on. So you can go into whatever feeling is coming up, and I call it releasing, but it's actually cutting through to the reality of the feeling, because the feeling appears to be so self-existent, but it's not. And when you look for the feeling, when you try and embrace it, what you find is you can't find it. It's illusory. Just like when we were looking at the self, when we were seeing how solidly the self, the sense of me appears within us, but when we look for it, it's not there. So same happens with the feeling, same happens with everything. And that's the nature of reality. And so that's one of the methods of getting to that experience of unfindability, which is a huge release. It frees us from it all. So, what do you think? Any thoughts on that? Any experiences of your own? Yeah.
Comfort, so finding comfort. Is that like being comfortable with the discomfort of the emotion that you're experiencing? So you sit in that.
Is it feeling comfortable within the discomfort of that emotion. It is, yeah. It's. Sorry?
Is it, I suppose, are you able to talk a little bit more about that in terms of
Bringing attention to it.
is that bringing the attention to the discomfort of the body sensation
Yeah.
that you're experiencing?
Partly.
Happen?
Partly. It doesn't have to be the physical bodily sensation, but more whatever the feeling is. So it's really like, it can be a physical thing too. You can do it with pain, physical pain. You can do it with, heartache. You can do it with anxiety. You can do it with fear. You can do it with anything. Yeah.
Is that where impermanence come in because the emotion changes?
Well, impermanence definitely does. It comes into everything. It does change, yeah. But it's also because of the nature of reality that it's empty of existing inherently too. And that's the most subtle. And that's what we discover through that mode of entering into that feeling with our mind, immersing our mind, our awareness into that as much as we can. Because as I was saying, it's really elusive because it's not there in the same way that we perceive it. It appears to be there, but when we actually look for it, it's like, well, where is it? It's not obvious, and it keeps on moving away from us. But funnily enough, just by looking for it, we get to the heart of it. We get to the fact that it's actually not existing in that way, and we find that it has no essence, which is really wonderful because we do it directly like that, that impacts in us in a really powerful way, because by not we're not conceptually, doing it. We're directly doing it, and on the feeling level is deeper than the thought level. So you know how we can go round and round in circles, thinking something through. It can help, and it helps to talk things through with people and that when you're concerned about stuff, whatever. But this is really much more direct on the feeling level. It's deeper than the thoughts, and so the effect is deeper too, and more all-encompassing. Like, for example, you can have an argument with someone and you've had a blue and you're really feeling it, and you can go away and just feel it and do this where you really try and penetrate into that feeling. And then what I've found is that not only do you feel resolved about that conflict, energetically it affects the other person as well. And I don't know, it's quite uncanny, but it's like somehow, there's this dynamic that changes between you, and you get the feedback from them that they've shifted as well. Yeah, it's really amazing. And sometimes, you don't even have to talk about it again. Like, I've given this example before because it's one of my best. It's like I had this conflict with someone years ago, and it was bugging me, but I just left them and went off, and so I was sitting with this feeling, Sorry, I'm going on a bit over time. I won't be long. Yeah, I was sitting with this feeling and, yeah, for the rest of the day, basically. And I mean, just a few times I sat with it, and then I just was doing my stuff. And then the next morning, I actually felt quite a bit better by the end of the day. But the next morning I woke up and I was just like, what was that? Like, it was completely resolved, just did not care one iota about it. And so, you know, I didn't have to have it out with them or anything. I didn't have to bring it up or anything. It was just completely fine. Anyway, bit down the track, they said the same thing again, but this time it didn't rattle me, you know, it was like, oh yeah. But not only that, they actually, slightly later again, apologised for having been, you know, like insulting me or whatever. And just completely off their own back, you know, like I hadn't brought it up at all. So this is how it can resolve and the dynamic can sort out between, you know, people. So yeah, that's one really great method. So we better leave it there, and yeah, just let's just wind up with a little bit of a just imagining filling ourselves with brilliant white light coming from our heart in the essence of loving kindness, feeling our whole being and emanating it out in all directions, filling the whole of space and all beings, all living beings, filling their hearts with love and light and joy. Okay, thanks. Oh, and also we've got some cake, and come and have a cuppa outside. I mean, in the dining room. Thank you.